Hello, it's Ben with the DIY Homefront, and I'm glad you're back. I've got another video on my 54-inch Craftsman zero-turn lawnmower. The last time I had a belt that was bad, and I replaced it. I've cut the grass once since then, but the deck seemed to be making a lot of noise. So I'm going to take that belt off, and I'm going to check all the spindles and pulleys and make sure I don't have some bearings that are going bad. Because I'm thinking maybe I got a bearing that's going bad, and that caused the belt to wear and caused the belt to break, not just normal life. The last time I used the mower, it had been raining, so the mower was awful dirty, and I had washed it and got it all clean. So I'm going to go ahead and grease all the grease fittings and go ahead and armor all the rubber as long as we're at it. Well, let's get into this. Well, for my mowers, that is pretty clean. You can actually read the fuel level. The deck doesn't look too bad. There's not grease everywhere. This is more what they normally look like. Deck's all dirty, water, sand, dirt's everywhere. The plastic looks like it's been through the wringer. Well, let's see if this black magic interior detail can make the rubber and plastic look any better. The last time I washed this mower was probably about 2 years ago when I replaced the deck on it. But I don't know if I've ever conditioned any of the plastic parts. Well, that's not working as good as I want. Let's try some back to black heavy duty trim cleaner. This plastic is really soaking up this trim cleaner. And that's what I'm really after. I want to make sure that the sun shining on all the black parts isn't going to make them dry and brittle. Because if they break, they're probably pretty hard to replace. I'm just going to pour a bunch out. The other side just kept soaking it up, and I imagine this side's going to be the same way. Hopefully we'll be able to tell that the plastic goes from like a grayish white color to a deeper black. It's 95 degrees today, and I don't think I'm going to get this first task done before I'm sweating. This makes me want to change the oil and the air and the gas filter, so that way the engine runs as good as it looks. Well, I've got my tools out, so let's take a look at this deck and try to figure out why it was so noisy. The first thing to do is to take off this cover so we can remove the belt from the spindle. I'm going to put all the bolts in this cover and set it to the side because I don't want to lose any of them. The belt still seems awful tight. I think I'll try releasing the deck from the mower and see if that loosens anything up. To release the deck, all you have to do is lift up a little bit and pull on this handle, and it should release the pin and the deck should fall down. I'm going to take my socket extension and put it underneath the belt and then pull that around in a circular motion, and that should get the belt off. The bearings in this first spindle are making a little bit of noise, but they don't feel bad. There's no crunchiness or vibrations. I'm going to have to slide this deck all the way out if I'm going to check the pulleys and the other two spindles. I'll release the deck on the other side of the mower by pulling that handle. And then I'm going to remove the support rod from the front of the deck. And then I can grab the deck and pull it out from underneath the mower. I'll get the belt out of the way, and then I can spin the pulleys and the spindles. Good. This sounds bad. And this one sounds a little noisy, but it doesn't feel crunchy or anything. Let's see if I got one of these. I need to have a 9/16 wrench on the bottom to be able to use my socket drive on top and get this bolt out. I've got a Tupperware container of spare parts in the barn, and I was able to find a direct replacement pulley for this 54-inch deck. But I was also able to find a smaller pulley that went to my 42-inch mower deck. And I think what I'll do, if it fits, I will put the smaller pulley on instead of the large pulley. I'm hoping that the smaller diameter of the pulley will give a little bit more room for the belt and it won't be quite as tight. Well, regardless of which pulley I use, when I get done, I will go ahead and order another one. That way I have a small pulley for the 42-inch deck or a large pulley for this deck. It looks like the dust cover ends up rubbing on this pulley, so I think I'm going to need to go find a washer and use it as a spacer. Well, I took the bolt to my bin of washers and found one I could use as a spacer. So now all I need to do is get this tightened up. And one more time. Bad? Good. To make it easier to put grease in all the grease fittings on the front end, I'll jack it up. The lock and lube and the lube shuttle. After you've got your grease gun attached, you just pull the handle until you see grease coming out. And then I always wipe away all the excess. It can be a little tricky getting to the grease fitting for the front axles. After about 15 pumps of the grease gun, I thought I better check to make sure the grease wasn't coming out someplace I couldn't see. And sure enough, it was coming out. I'll do a little cleanup with my rag and then we can go to the other side. There's no difference with the upper grease fitting, but when you get to the axle, it's missing the little dimple that the grease fitting would hook up to. So I have an extension, and that extension allows me to poke the end of the grease gun into a specific spot, and then I can squirt the grease out. And it really works the same way. A couple of pumps, and then you check it, and we have the grease. A lot of times the new grease will push out a big blob of the old grease. You have to go underneath in the center of the front axle to get the last grease fitting, and it's hard to do with the deck in place. I will route the belt around the pulleys and spindles on the mower deck before I push it underneath the lawnmower. This is the part I dislike the most about working on my mower decks. Disconnecting them, pulling them in and out, and hooking them back up. We don't need the jack anymore. I'll push the deck forward so I can get the front hanger in place. Then I'll move to the back of the deck and get the two side pins connected. And now you can see why I don't like working on the mower deck. Trying to lift the deck up and get the pins in place is never easy. Yeah, and just because you have one side done doesn't mean the other side's going to line up or go quick either. There's not a whole lot of room underneath the engine, but this is where the drive belt for the deck goes. I'll do one more check underneath the mower and make sure that the drive belt are around the pulleys before I try to put it on the last spindle. And this is how I get the belts on the spindles. I do the same thing with the 42-inch mower. I don't know if there's another way to do it or a better way to do it, but this is the way I have done it over the last couple years. It was not captured on video, but there's a large spring I had to hook up, and that's what keeps all this tension on the belt. And that's the belt tensioning spring. It hooks to the deck on one side and the pulley on the other. Well, there's just the 5 bolts that hold on this cover, and we are done. Well, I am hot, and I imagine the mower looks better than me. The back to black on the plastic will probably help lubricate it and make it last a lot longer to keep the plastic from being brittle and getting sun faded and breaking. And as far as the deck goes, I'm glad I took it off. There was one of those pulleys with a sealed bearing on it that had gone bad. And I'm hoping that smaller diameter pulley will make the belt last a little bit longer. And it never hurts to make sure you get all the spots that need grease, so the wheel bushings will last longer and it turns easier. Well, that's it for this time on the 54-inch zero-turn Craftsman riding mower. Like, subscribe, check out my playlist, and I'll see you in another video.